Warning, photosensitivity, lights and strobes.
If you like what I do, please subscribe and click the bell so that you never miss a video. Support me on Patreon, link in the description. The United States of America is closing in on its 250th birthday. We are no longer a young nation. We may not have an ancient pantheon, but we do have founding fathers to hate admire. We have our founding myth that the United States was born of revolution against tyranny instead of the self-interests of these founders. We clutch it to our collective bosom like a security blanket soaked in Sam Adams lager. The U.S. never stopped mythologizing our wars. World War II looms large in our national pride, our very identity. It is the one moment in American history where we can point and loudly declare, that's where we peaked. That's where we came together. Everything after that has been squabbling and microwavable cheese. If you ask the average American, the United States personally punched Hitler off a cliff like Captain America come to life. In a cruel twist of fate, Captain America is a Marvel Comics superhero and Captain Nazi is a DC Comics supervillain. Never will they meet and discuss how much they have in common. You wouldn't know from popular culture that we actually arrived late to the war, like that guy who shows up at the party at 11:57 p.m. with a warm six-pack and immediately brags about how he saved the gathering. Nor would you know that the Soviet Union did the extraordinary heavy lifting, losing over 20 million people, many of them civilians, all while choke-slamming the Wehrmacht through the Earth's mantle. The American pastime is not baseball, but rather ignoring inconvenient truths. We instead reenact a Disney-fied version of the war, one where freedom tastes like Mountain Dew and America saved the world. That gets thrown around a lot, saving the world. Maybe collectively we did, but not as significantly as one might assume from our popular media and the way we speak about the war. The consensus among historians and blow-em-up experts is that Nazi Germany would have lost the war even without direct American intervention. The USA simply moved the victory along at a faster pace. You ever hear someone say this? Without us, the British would be goose-stepping to Kraftwerk and involuntarily craving bratwurst. The French, eternally the butt of American jokes, get painted as cowards because their leadership surrendered, omitting the minor detail that France built a global empire and invented half of modern warfare before America was done arguing about which name should be largest on the Declaration of Independence. The victor of that quarrel was John Hancock, the most penised man in American history. And into our history books, written in quill ink, powered by myth, ego, and selective memory. Video games about World War II are shaped by this cultural memory, but contain a broader view of the belligerents to flesh out the games. As a practicality, World War II shooters are not always as Amerocentric as the American psyche demands. Medal of Honor in 1999 mostly focused on American OSS missions, sure, but its sequel put you in the fanciful shoes of a French resistance commander. Yes, the French, the supposed world champions of surrender. The American gamer was told to believe in French badassery and many complied. The first Call of Duty, it gave players American, British, and Soviet campaigns. Call of Duty 2 repeated the formula. Call of Duty 3 even gave the Canadians and Polish their own campaigns, which was both historically relevant and also extremely convenient for the times. America was neoconning the Middle East, and Poland was a member of the so-called Coalition of the Willing. Congratulations, Poland, your reward for taking part in one of the biggest disasters of the 21st century is some digital Nazis to shoot. Call of Duty used to have a simple moral framework. Nazis equals bad. No lies detected. And then Call of Duty discovered the modern era. Call of Duty had begun to replace its original setting with a modern-day global conflict. Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, featured a fictional near-future war in an unnamed Middle Eastern country. The principal antagonist is a Middle Eastern warlord who Americans could imprint with the faces of whatever bad guy was relevant in the axis of evil. Call of Duty needed to evoke the mood and the politics of the post-9/11 2000s while avoiding direct association with the still-going military interventions of the War on Terror. The catastrophe of Iraq, the missing weapons of mass destruction, the growing anti-war movement, the prolonged presence in Afghanistan, and the, at the time, inability to locate Osama bin Laden. These were best left unaddressed by the developer and publisher, hoping to cast a wide net to capture its audience. Call of Duty's Modern Warfare games needed to share a family resemblance to the War on Terror while still remaining distinct. It was not only a matter of marketing, though, there were practical limitations. Call of Duty's World War II campaigns end with victory for the Allies, but how do you write the conclusion of the War on Terror when there is no end in sight? Nobody is going to be convinced by mission accomplished anymore. Call of Duty revisited World War II on a few occasions, but the modern torture fest of the series clearly dominates its landscape. One of the last gasps of its World War II setting was 2008's Call of Duty World at War. Let's remember what the series used to be and kill some Nazis. World at War features two main campaigns, one following Americans fighting Imperial Japan, the other following Soviets fighting Nazis. And listen, confession time. I skipped the American missions. I used the command prompts to break the game's intended structure. And I'm sorry, but I did not come here to fight the Japanese. They gave us Chainsaw Man. I came here to harvest Nazis like wheat. In the Soviet campaign, the player assumes the role of Private Dmitry Petrenko and takes orders from Viktor Reznov. We take the fight to the Nazis in burned-out buildings, trenches, underground, wherever Nazis hide from righteous justice. From time to time, Reznov will shout orders about showing no mercy to the Nazi regime and that they will take no prisoners and wipe out every last goose-stepping, world-destroying piece of shit in Nazi Germany. The way the Soviets speak about the Nazis and execute prisoners contrasts with how the developers often portray American soldiers, but you know what? The Soviets had it right. Am I supposed to feel bad about this? Am I meant to question my mission like, what if I look into the abyss and the abyss stares back and I become my enemy? What does that say about the cycle of violence? Fuck these Nazis. They don't get to have children who grow up adopting their parents' ideology or sense of nationalism about Germany in the 1930s and 40s. Crush the Nazis so hard that Germany is forced to overcorrect for the next 60 or 70 years. I don't have a lot of nice things to say about Germany right now, considering they are arming Israel and recently lifted their weapons ban. Anyway, the Soviet Union campaign begins in Stalingrad. Viktor Reznov survives where so many did not. He instructs the player to assassinate a German general with a sniper rifle. Now, if I were playing this game, alternating between American and Soviet campaigns, this assassination would be happening after I had already figured out the controls and had earned some confidence, but because I skipped right to this, it feels like my first shot in the entire game is a boss battle. I love cheating! The rest of the mission takes place in a burning building, crumbling under my feet, searing off my flesh. The stakes are set up right away. In the next Soviet mission, I need to traverse the trenches. As I do this, I start to notice that this is a first-person shooter in which I am being propelled forward rather than given a map and try to muscle my way through the enemies and brain my way through the puzzles. Trenches have never looked so narrow. Is the whole game like this? Reznov not only shouts orders for narrative purposes, he is a stand-in for the developer, guiding the player through the carnage. We don't go back, we only go forward. Call of Duty World at War does not feel like a simulation of World War II, it feels like a simulation of a World War II movie. I am too many degrees away from the horrors of war to experience the tension. As someone who grew up on Doom and Duke Nukem 3D and now plays modern boomer shooters, this is jarring. Those games have maps, real maps, maps with secrets, alternate routes, puzzles, locked doors, switches, labyrinthine design. They give the player agency, they reward curiosity, they force you to take risks. In Call of Duty World at War and other games in the series, there are secrets in the sense that some guns can be found among the rubble, but the player is always guided through the rubble and rarely finds anything organically. The artificiality of the missions does not honor player choice. Doom and Duke Nukem 3D are different. Can I make it through E whatever M something having uncovered all the secrets? Can I shotgun blast every monster and demon before pressing the exit button? When the world of Blood opens up, it's like being handed a treasure map. When the world of Call of Duty opens up, it's like being on Pirates of the Caribbean. Looks good, but you are on rails. The adventure is happening around you more than within you. I want to be clear about something. My complaint is not entirely about challenge. You can always increase the difficulty settings in Call of Duty at your leisure. Also, I'm not a get-good gamer. Some of that is philosophy, and some of that is self-interest, because I am not that good at video games. Anyway, for me, this is more about variety. See, in addition to the Call of Duty campaign feeling more like a hallway than a world, the enemy variety is limited by the historical accuracy. All these Nazis look alike and have the same guns. Where the hell is Mecha Hitler? A rogue's gallery of enemies is not only an aesthetic choice, but a gameplay choice. Different enemies have unique behaviors, not to mention weaknesses to particular weapons more than others. In Call of Duty World at War, a Nazi is a Nazi is a Nazi, which conforms to my political beliefs, but not my gaming preferences. Don't get it twisted here. Call of Duty environments are highly detailed, cinematic, and must have taken a tremendous amount of effort to create. Kudos to the developer, all love to the programmers forced to work day and night, cap'n crunching away. But that's just the thing. When I complete a mission in Call of Duty, I am rightfully impressed by the developer. When I complete a map in Doom, I have the opportunity to be impressed with myself. Doom does not flatter me, though. It scores me. Like I said, only the opportunity to win big is there, not a foregone conclusion. Call of Duty is like a beautiful vase that I'm not really allowed to touch. Now, everything I'm saying here is a matter of taste. Apples and oranges, I recognize that. However, I must also note that a first-person shooter can have elements of cinema while still giving the player more freedom of movement. Cultic presents environments that tell the story through architecture, rewarded for paying attention, discovering a typewriter, a note, or some other evidence of foul play. The atmosphere is thick with danger. There is risk involved in exploration. The player must make decisions about how to complete the map. If the player wants to minimize contact with enemies, searching through every corner of the map is not recommended, but that would prevent the player from the thrill of discovery. That's the trade-off. The player must be brave. Remember when console multiplayer blew up in the 2000s? It was no longer the realm of PC. Call of Duty and other military shooters were largely responsible for that boom period. I recall on message boards, oh god, that really dates this, reading about gamers who skip the single-player campaign altogether and focus exclusively on the multiplayer. I'm a single player through and through, but I see the appeal, gathering your best buddies to either storm an enemy base or duke it out among the group, or among strangers. Nevertheless, I did not fully understand at the time why multiplayer gamers would skip the single-player campaign completely. I thought, don't you want some baddies to headshot when your friends aren't online, or when you're outside of peak multiplayer matchup hours? Only now do I comprehend. The issue was not only that the multiplayer aspect was so addicting, although that was certainly part of the equation, it was that the single-player campaigns were understandably not hyped up by other gamers and gamer viewers. What's to say? You run around and do what you're told. That does not appeal to multiplayer gamers. They want to drive the action. They want to win. In multiplayer Call of Duty, the players drive the story. In single-player Call of Duty, the game drives the story. Multiplayer Call of Duty was the only way for something surprising to happen. The mystery element, the tension. Even for those who enjoy the single-player campaign, they may not feel compelled to replay the campaign. If it's more movie than game, well, they've seen this movie before. Before moving on, I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that this is not a unique perspective. But I didn't play Call of Duty back then, so I have to say all this now. World War II military shooters generally do not feature single-player campaigns from the perspective of Nazi Germany, and thank goodness for that. There are enough Nazis in multiplayer waiting rooms already. And yet, there are World War II grand strategy games that allow players to choose the Axis powers. Series like Hearts of Iron, Strategic Command, and Supreme Ruler. I have never played those games, as grand strategy is simply one of those genres I have not dipped my toes into. But it got me thinking, what games do Nazis play? Meaning, what do people in the year 2025 play if they happen to be a white nationalist or some other shade of Nazi? Conservatives, reactionaries, and outright fascists often cry about so-called woke games, meaning games either explicit with politics that they dislike or just games where women and minorities exist. Not every anti-woke Steam review is from a Nazi, but Nazis are still among their ranks. The most uncomfortable answer to what games do Nazis play is a lot of the same games that everyone else plays. They might avoid Life is Strange, but most AAA games are designed for such broad appeal that players can imprint their own values onto them, or designed so that it would be easy to miss the road signs of social values. I mentioned my love of Doom earlier. It's a universally beloved game with a popularity that shines across the political spectrum of its enormous fanbase. Few games are designed specifically to appeal to Nazis, which means Nazis end up playing games that non-Nazis play as well. Nazis play Doom. Socialists play Doom. Liberals play Doom. Libertarians play Doom while ranting about consent laws. When media is captivating, everyone ends up consuming it, including the worst people. Games have anti-cheat software now, but there is no such thing as a fascist detector that stops Nazis from enjoying normal things. I have only played one modern-era Call of Duty game, but I can see why this kind of shooter might appeal to right-wingers. A lot of hand-waving, torture, and other war crimes in the name of national security. And I'm sorry, but making it look ugly does not make it look morally wrong. Imagine releasing a game about stomping fascism right now. You might get called out on social media and forced to apologize for an uncontroversial opinion that fascists need to be stopped. But someone could make that game in 2025 nonetheless. Catharsis can be helpful in maintaining mental health. Playing a bunch of games about killing Nazis has been a rare balm for me this year, but I must admit that these videos have been arduous. I'm not going back to the old me. I don't want my work to be too serious when the rest of my existence already is. Expect lighter fare next time. Bye for now.